It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Woohoo! And this week, I am very honored to have a dear friend and a great guest, Mr. Dave Cool from Bandzoogle.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Michael. Good to see you.
Hey, Dave. Great to see you. Let me get the chat room open so I can say hello to all the people in there. Hello, gang. How are you guys? Hope you all had a great weekend. So, Dave Cool. I've known Dave for, 15 years probably now, if that's even possible. But I knew him when he was the T-boy at Bandzoogle. And now look at him. He's vice president of business development. You've probably met Dave at the Road Rally if you've attended, because they've been a sponsor for many years, which we appreciate. And Dave, he's one of you guys. He's not just affable and easy to talk to, but he's super duper knowledgeable. Did I just say super duper? He's very knowledgeable about all things related to musicians. I was telling him before we went live on the show that virtually every freaking time I look at a taxi member's personal website, I can tell that they built it with Bandzoogle. And I don't think we've ever had a sponsor that so many of our members have used the product and love it. People like it. If I go, I see your site was made with Bandzoogle, they go, oh yeah, I love it. So good on you and the rest of the team over there for building something that makes it so easy that people that are tech phobic can build a website. Yay.
Appreciate that very much, and appreciate all the members who have joined and who have met over the years at Taxi. We were chatting before. It's my favorite conference. I love the community. I love the people. I miss you guys this past year. It was very sad to not be able to go, but yeah, it's nice to finally catch up and talk. And it's a strange time in the music industry, but we're seeing some inspiring things happening online, and musicians are a creative bunch, and they're still finding ways to make money and earn a living, which is the topic of today's show.
It is technically called How Musicians Are Making Money During the Pandemic. Can I get you to scoot back a little, Dave? You're back in the big headed mode.
I'm trying to get too intimate with you. There you go.
There you go. So, because you are so out there normally at all the conferences, and I mean, I will see you constantly chatting to musicians and stuff, and I know you've built a huge network of musicians. Tell me about some of these creative ways that you've seen them make money, because I've seen a lot of people thinking about it and not actually doing it. So I want to hear about the people that are doing it and doing it well.
Sure. So I guess I'll start then with your website. Like a lot of like you mentioned, there's a lot of taxi members that use Bandzoogle, and we're super appreciative. And Bandzoogle has over 55,000 members.
Wow.
And when the pandemic hit and things shut down and there were no more live shows, there's obviously that initial shock. We have a lot of members that had tours booked and were releasing albums and had supporting shows and all that. So we saw some real inspiring creative things happening when we dove into the data and started talking to our members. And we released an infographic back in, I guess it would have been October, just looking back at how our members at Bandzoogle were generating revenue strictly through their website. And we'll get into, there's obviously lots of ways to make money with your music outside of your website, but just through your website, we saw a spike in digital music sales. So MP3s, WAV files, digital albums, digital tracks, singles, things like that. And, in a world that's dominated by the streaming conversation of like everything's on Spotify or Apple Music, Michael, I can't tell you for sure if these millions of dollars of sales, all these fans were downloading those tracks and putting them on a device. I doubt it, but they were supporting the artist by buying their music. So they're probably still streaming the music on their favorite platform, but the musicians that are offering a way for their fans to support them financially by offering digital music, making it pay what you can or pay what you want, is a
Mm.
popular way to kind of incentivize, well, give the option for your fans to give you more. And we've actually applied that same philosophy to other areas of the platform. But, you know, I've definitely, from my own experience, I mean, I've paid $20 for a single track because I loved it so much. And I just like, here, if you're going to give me the option to give you $20, I'll give you $20. If you're going to tell me it's 99 cents, I'll give you 99 cents. But,
Yeah.
you know, some might take it for free or for the minimum price or whatever. But you'd be surprised how generous some fans can be, especially at a time like this. So selling music tracks, you know, we saw a spike there. Merch was the biggest, has been the biggest. You know, CDs, vinyl, shirts, hats, mugs, stickers, all that fun stuff. You know, just between March and August, almost $4 million in merch sales for Bandzoogle members. I mean, it's,
Whoa.
yeah, it's
That's
incredible. Much
significant.
higher now. Yeah, and we're
Can
doing
you
another report soon to release the latest numbers, but that was as of August.
can you say which items are the top three sellers?
I don't know that for sure. If I were to take an educated guess, it would probably be CDs and T-shirts. Um, Vinyl is a little bit more still niche, I would think, with our members, but a lot of CDs, a lot of T-shirts, and we were blown away. I mean, by how many millions of merch was sold. And so we just launched actually officially last week an integration with Printful, which is a print-on-demand company. So it's another option for Bandzoogle members to sell merch if you don't want to buy the merch up front and have an inventory to have to take care of. Printful just does everything print on demand. So you set up the merch, fan buys it, they print it, fulfill it, ship it to the fan. So that's exciting. So it's a no risk or low risk way to sell merch through your website. So
We've actually been using Printful. We just came out with taxi merch again. We had it years ago, but right before the road rally this year, we came out with like hoodies, t-shirts, baseball tees, and mugs. And surprisingly, which was the reason I asked you, our mugs sell like hotcakes, and they're not cheap for a mug. I mean, and we barely make any profit. I think we make like $2 a mug or something on it, but they're like, I want to say, I could be wrong about this, but I want to say they're like $12, $13 or something for a mug. And I
Yep.
always chuckle. It's like, who really needs another mug in their house? But I guess people buy it because they're attached to the brand of taxi, which would be makes your point for people buying stuff just to say, hey, throwing a little love your way, band that I love.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're fully expecting to see another spike in merch sales with that integration, because you can just create a bunch of custom merch and you don't have to worry if it doesn't sell and you're going to have a ton of inventory that you paid for. It's just, it doesn't sell, but whatever
Yeah.
does sell gets printed and fulfilled. So we're excited about that. So that was the biggest revenue stream for our members so far since the pandemic hit. Next up is live stream ticket sales. So right when things shut down, we have a built-in, I should mention, all the sales. If you're a Bandzoogle member, you probably know this, but just in case you don't, any sale that happens through your website, whether it's digital music, merch, tickets, crowdfunding, monthly subscriptions from your fans, it's all commission free. So we don't take any
Right.
cut of sales. So
Which is amazing.
yeah, like it's a Bandzoogle's a premium product. You pay a monthly subscription, whether it's 10, 15, or $20 a month, but you get the hosting, you get your domain name, you get all the design tools, you get the e-commerce. And then we don't take anything more than that. There's no extra cost for support or switching a theme or template or design, and there's no commission on sales. So we already had built-in ticketing. So the first thing we launched was a simple way to unfortunately, to refund tickets for shows, because people just had to do it quickly. And then we added functionality to put like a Zoom link with a password on the ticket that fans get in the email that goes to fans, so that you could sell tickets to your live streams and provide the link and a password if needed. And hundreds of thousands of dollars of live stream tickets were sold. I was a little bit surprised by that, to be honest, because if you're on any kind of social media those first few months, you couldn't log into Instagram or Facebook with like 20 notifications of, this many bands are live or artists are live, which is great. Like everyone's doing what they need to do, to engage with their fans. But I was like, are people going to pay for this? And fans definitely were and are and continue to. And we've seen our members do themed shows where it's like they're going to play one particular album and it's going to be, ticketed and it's intimate and you'll be able to interact with the artist and things like that. So that was a very nice surprise. And tips, donations, we launched a tip jar, like a very simple tip jar feature, again, commission free, so fans could donate whatever amount they wanted. So the idea there was, if you are going to do Facebook or Instagram live streams, that you you can put a link in your bio for Instagram. You could put a link in the description for the live show on Facebook, and I think pin a comment to the top. And we were encouraging our members, just put a link to your website that has this tip jar on it. And the thing is, like, and you see a lot of artists putting their PayPal email or Venmo, which is cool. But if you bring people to your website, all of a sudden maybe you can collect their email address. Maybe they'll buy some merch on the same page or some music on the same page that you've sent them to with that donation button. And the most inspiring example of this, we have a member called Enter the Haggis, and they're one of many artists that I'm sure had an album ready. They were going to release it like in March, and they had a
March 24th.
Yeah, exactly. They had a North American tour booked, festival date, the whole nine yards. This is a band that's pretty established. They've got a fan base, and everything fell through. Every gig got canceled, and it took them about a week of like that shock of, what do we do now? And so what they did was so creative, and they decided, the hashtag on social media, Throwback Thursdays, like people like old photos or whatever. So they did every 2 weeks. They didn't do it every week, but every 2 weeks they did a Throwback Thursday live stream where they did a listening party they have a pretty extensive discography. So they went from their first album leading all the way up to their new release. So they did this with each one of their albums. And not only did they do the listening party, they pre-recorded interviews with the band members, talking about the songwriting process, the studio experience of each album. So it was really like a well-produced event every 2 weeks where their fans could get insight into every single one of this band's albums. And they put a link across the video. They had a banner. They had a link in the description, sending fans to their website that had the tip jar and then the album for sale that was being played that night.
Yeah.
And they made I forget how many, must have been 6 or 7 of these live streams leading up to the new album. They did a big listening party for the new album, but they generated over $15,000 doing these live streams. I mean, they told me it wasn't enough to make up for the lost revenue from tour, but it helped. It certainly helped. That's mostly donations, some merch, some music, of course. But we were seeing going through the data. I mean, donations ranging from $5 to thousands of dollars.
You're kidding.
You never know who your fans are and how much they can afford to support you unless you put it out there and give them the option to choose. Like if you put going back to the music, you make your album $10 and your track's $1. That's cool. You'll get $10 and $1. But if you give people the option to give you more, you might see something pretty amazing. So looking through the data, the average tip between March, I guess it would have been April and August, the average donation was $42. The average, which is much higher than we were expecting.
I remember probably in May or June, some band, and it could have been a Taxi member band, and I heard about it on their Bandzoogle site, but they decided that they were going to do their nightly sessions, that they were all working. Actually, they were nightly sessions because they all had day jobs, and they were working on a new album. And then when the pandemic hit, they said, you know what? Let's do this remotely and see if we can pull it off. And they got the tech together and it worked really, really well. And they said, why don't we invite our audience to watch us every night making this record and take audience input? Do you like the high harmony part, or should we have 3-part harmony? Should we double track it? And they actually had a chat room set up for this. And of course, I was in there under another name, but I'm like, double track it and throw like a 3/4 of a second plate delay on it. And they're like, what? But they did the same thing. They put up a tip jar, and every night for like a month they did it. And apparently they did really well. So I never would have dreamed that people would tip better than they would buy a ticket, let's say, that's a $10 or $20 ticket. That wow.
It's pretty amazing stuff. I mean, it's obviously not everyone, but we saw enough success stories, and just looking through the data, you're like, there's some very generous people out there that clearly are, trying to support musicians during what is, a pretty difficult time. If you're a performing musician, it's, some of them, that's their full-time job. That's, they gig, whether it's in a cover band or like weekly gigs or whatever, or if they're touring. So, we've seen a lot of musicians have to pivot online and kind of establish their online presence and their online business in a way, which is, when this is all over, hopefully very soon, for all the musicians that took this time and were productive, and if they didn't have a website, they set up, like we saw, a lot of new members joining Bandzoogle and getting their website set up for the first time and selling merch and music for the first time. And what's great about it is when this is all over and you go back to gigging, if you're a performing musician, you've got that online business set up now.
Yeah.
And so that revenue's there, and you can keep, generating it, and then you can go on the road. And that leads me to the next revenue stream. We saw hundreds of thousands of dollars in fan subscriptions. So this is like that patronage model of a fan subscribes to a band. So we have that built into Bandzoogle, where you charge a monthly fee and you offer exclusive content or early access to content. So the most common, I would say, is, we see our members offering their full discography that you can download or stream on a gated page. You have to be a subscriber. You get maybe discounts on merch, and they'll do like a private subscriber only live stream once a month, something like that. And like $5 a month, $10 a month, you get access to all these things. But we've seen, a lot of musicians try this revenue stream out for the first time during the pandemic and do some really creative things. I mean, I wrote a blog post a couple of years ago when we launched the feature. Initially, it was like 71 ways you can reward your subscribers. And I never had vegan cooking classes on that list, but that's what we saw one of our members do, because they're vegans and they love to cook. And so at one of the tiers, you can set up different tiers for different rewards. You can have like $5 a month, you get all access to the music. You can have $20 a month, you get the live streams. And one of Hudast, the member, one of their tiers, you get monthly vegan cooking classes from the band. I mean, and it's such a creative, fun way to engage with your fan base.
It's incredible.
It's, thinking outside of the box and thinking how to connect with your fans in a different way. And, I moderated a panel with some of our members that had started this subscription model because of the pandemic. And, the initial reason was we had no choice. We need to generate some revenue. So they learned all about it and then launched it. And now they're excited again, when this is all over, to bridge that sort of exclusive online fan club with touring, because you can do some really cool behind the scenes content for your subscribers who may not be able to go see you in in a certain city, but you can do some videos, take some photos, do some exclusive things backstage that are just for those subscribers. So there'll be a way to bridge that online fan club to the live.
Something's going on backstage I don't think we should be able to see. Just saying, Dave.
True. Not everything should be shared.
I am loving this conversation. Seriously, I will make a commitment right here, right now. I'm going to write it on this piece of paper I'm taking notes on, but please remind me when we're a few months out from the next road rally, whether it's, virtual or in person, that
Yeah.
remains to be seen. I would love to have you reach out to some Bandzoogle members and moderate a panel on and do just exactly that for the rally.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really inspiring thing. Like, I can sit here and try to teach it and explain the parameters of how this revenue stream, certain revenue streams work. But it's amazing to see artists look at something and then take it in a direction that's so creative and so unique and so it makes so much sense for their fans and make it work and get rewarded, financially for it. So I'd love to. That'd be fun.
Very few people that I will ever turn over the moderation mic to, but you would definitely be one of them. And, again, it's like, your constituency like I know mine, so it's not like, so tell us how you set it up. I mean, you know the subject and you know the people so well. I've got to ask you because
Yep.
my heart gets broken when I see people doing live streams and other efforts like we're talking about, and they get no audience. And it's very sad when you see three people in the room on a Zoom, and you know that it's like the girlfriend, the mom, and the sister or something, And what separates the people who are successful at it, excuse me, from the people who aren't able to draw audience? Is it just personality and determination? Do they know something about marketing the others don't? What makes them successful?
That's a good question. I think it could be part of the latter of some artists are better at marketing themselves and promotion and engaging with their fans. I was talking about this recently, and when I mentioned like live stream ticket sales, like I was a little bit surprised because that's I think you have to have a pretty established fan base to get people to pay money to do a private live stream. And I still believe that to a certain extent. And I think there's nothing wrong at all with the model of going live, even spontaneously on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. As long as you're, engaging with your fans and making it a good experience, and like that Enter the Haggis thing where they produced like these 1 hour shows to go with each one of their albums. That's an extreme example, but just making sure that, and get back to your original question, like why sometimes there's only three people. I think it has to do with fan base, the size of your fan base, obviously the marketing promotion, but also frequency. I saw some artists going live so often that at a certain point it's not new, it's not exciting, and it kind of loses steam a little bit. And so what I've been seeing more and more is artists picking and choosing and doing more of a build up to a live stream rather than the off the cuff stuff. But I don't know if there's a perfect formula, but I think a lot of it is fan base and just making it a good experience, both performance, audio quality, video quality, interacting with your fans, making it fun for them, answering questions, doing requests. There's all sorts of things you can do to make it a fun experience. But yeah, to do it on Zoom and only have a handful of people, that could be tough, especially if you charge tickets or whatever. But I saw one well-established artist cap his Zooms at 30 tickets. He just wanted 30 people because he wanted to be able to interact with them all. And so he charged higher for the ticket, but had less people, and they sold out his shows. He did them, I believe, every 2 weeks. And that was a different model that worked for him. So it depends on the artist, but yeah, it can be heartbreaking to put in that effort, and there's not very many people there. And it's a good opportunity to step back and analyze and take stock of what you could be doing better, I guess.
You and I were at dinner one night, probably, I don't know, 4 years ago maybe, and we were talking about mailing lists. And at the time, social media, I mean, it was already a thing, but it was just raging at the time. And I made the point that for Taxi, it's always been about our email list. That's where our best communication happens. Social media is very ephemeral. It's there 1 second and then gone the next. Do you think there's any correlation between the people you see being most successful in these various endeavors, and they're the people that were smart about building their mailing list early, and that's part of it?
You nailed it. That's funny. That's a great observation and a great question. So the artist I just mentioned who was capping his live streams has a huge email database, which he built up over years, of giving away his music for free in exchange for an email address because he knew he could
Yep.
use that email list for life for his whole career to monetize live shows when he was touring, merch, crowdfunding, that kind of thing. So that the way I found out about his live streams was through email. And Enter the Haggis, that Bandzoogle member that did those Throwback Thursday live streams, I mean, they use their email list. That's the biggest driver. If you're looking, social media is great, and I feel sometimes I get on a soapbox and I knock social media, and I work for a website platform, so yeah, it's a bad look. But social media is great for a lot of things, and especially engaging with your fans and finding new fans. But what it's not great for is focus and attention, which is what you need when you're asking for money from people. And an email, dedicated email with a clear call, even if you're not looking for money, but just to take an action, a dedicated email blast to your fans who have signed up because they want to hear from you is going to be so much more effective than shouting it on Facebook that might not see it. So you got to pay so to boost it so that maybe a certain percentage of your fans see it. That email list is gold. I mean, that's the first thing we tell artists. Like when you build your website, get it, like your main call to action on the homepage should be to collect emails and find some creative way, whether it's free tracks or exclusive tracks or something exclusive. Build your mailing list. When we're back in the live performance world again, every show you should be collecting emails. There's all sorts of, you can do it old school and have a sign up at your physical sign up at your booth. You can do it through an iPad. Make sure that everyone who's remotely interested in hearing about your career, you have their email address, because those emails are worth, they're gold for a musician, because that you own that database. So Bandzoogle has a mailing list tool built in. But if you leave Bandzoogle, you take that with you. We don't own that. You own that database of fans, whereas Facebook owns that database of fans, not you.
So and everything else they own too.
Exactly. So you can use MailChimp. You can download from there. You can use FanBridge, whatever service. That database of fans belongs to you as the artist, which is incredibly powerful. Same thing with the website. Like Bandzoogle, we're behind the scenes. We power the back end. But you own your domain name, you own your content, obviously, you own your emails. Like, we're just helping you make it look good and help you to have the e-commerce on your site. But we don't own your domain, we don't own your content, we certainly don't own the emails, obviously, that get collected. So those two things, website and email, it's amazing, like, to think that in 2021 that these things are still so relevant.
Everybody thinks social media is the answer. I just had this conversation this morning with a gentleman who cuts my hair. And he's like, now that our governor just opened up hair salons today starting at noon, and I think outdoor dining and some other stuff, which everybody in California is very happy about, I'm sure. And he called me up and said, okay, how do I get customers back to my shop using social media? And I said, probably not. Don't you have 500 people on your email list? He said, yeah. I said, that's the way to do it. And if I can introduce something that borders on unsavory, about almost a year ago or so, or maybe a year and a half ago, I was having problems with my lighting. I really was doing taxi TV. I just couldn't get the lighting right. And one of our members, I believe it was a member or somebody who's a regular watcher of Taxi TV, said, I know a girl who is a model on a website where many people remove articles of clothing. Men, women, and probably circus animals remove articles of clothing, and there's like a grid of these people. And he said, she has lighting dialed in. I'm going to connect you guys via email. So it's like, okay, but don't tell my wife. Anyway, she was really, really nice about it. She gave me the model number, gave me the link at Amazon, which ring light she bought, and she
Yeah.
showed me. She actually drew me a little sketch, like on a napkin, and then screenshotted it and sent me a picture of how you angle the lights and if you use a softbox in the ring light. So she was great. I was really grateful. But at one point, I asked her. I said, look, I've gone on the site to check out your lighting. And I said, and you're one of the top people on the site. In the subtext of that, which I did say to her, was there were other people who might have had features that made them more physically attractive. I don't know any kinder way to say that, but yet she was the one with the audience. And a lot of it, I think, was her personality. And when I asked her, I said, how do you build such an audience? She said, I collect email addresses because I have a personal website and I give away a still shot of myself in exchange for an email address. I send out an email half hour before I go live. Therefore, I have a big audience right out of the gate on the site. Their algorithm picks it up and shoots me right to the top half of the top page, and it just feeds on itself. So there is something to be learned in there for musicians, and it goes back to what we've been talking about, which is websites are a great way to collect email addresses. Yes, give away something for free in exchange for the email address. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. And traditionally, for musicians, it's been like give away a free track, free MP3, and we have that automated through our system. But to be perfectly honest, I don't think that's enough anymore. I think that music and streaming is so ubiquitous that a free track, for an email address probably isn't enough. So I think it's got to be something exclusive. It's got to be maybe an exclusive EP, unreleased songs, a personalized video even. Like we've seen some really creative things, like give some value to the person who's going to give up their email address because you're going to get so much value out of them being on your list. I mean, Pledge Music, which was a crowdfunding platform that, didn't end well, unfortunately, for a lot of artists and well, obviously the company, but they unfortunately didn't pay out a lot of the artists at the end. But they had some really great data. Their founder, who was no longer involved when all that went down, is a really wise person and really paid attention to the data when he was running the company. And they figured out that 15% of your mailing list are your super fans. Mm-hmm. And those 15% will spend on average $55 on a crowdfunding campaign, let's say. So, another revenue stream, and we have this built in too, is crowdfunding. And I don't think crowdfunding is dead. I don't know how much people pay attention to that, but when Pledge Music, went bankrupt and a lot of artists got screwed, a lot of people proclaimed that crowdfunding was dead, but we were partners with Pledge for years. We found out what was going on. We pulled our partnership because we were approached by some of our members saying they weren't getting paid. And then we launched a crowdfunding feature because we never had, because we were partnered with Pledge. But when they were out of the picture, we launched our own because we still believe it's a great way to A, engage with your fans, B, build up hype for the release of your new album, and yeah, generate revenues. So, that formula, the first question I get asked is, well, how many emails do I need on my list before I can crowdfund? I was like, well, let's do some, back the sheet math here. Like if 15% of your list will donate, roughly on average $55, then if you're looking to crowdfund, $10,000 or more, you're starting to look at needing a list of 1,500, 2,000 people before you can start thinking about that. If you have an email list of, 50 people, it's not time to crowdfund a $50,000 album.
Yeah, 2,000 people, 15% of your most active, dedicated fans is 300. Where's the clear button? Okay, so 300 times 55 is 16,500.
Yeah, there you go.
And 2,000 people is an achievable number if you just stick with it. That's not a tough number. 10,000 is tough. 50,000 is really friggin' hard. 100,000 takes years. But 2,000 in a year is probably achievable for somebody that reads. You can't just sit down and go, I'm going to do it. You've got to study everything you can on the internet, read every blog, buy every book. Somebody, and by the way, those of you in the chat room who are asking questions, starting at 5 o'clock, top of the hour, we're going to open this up to Q&A. So you guys are asking some great questions. I just don't want to break the rhythm here. But I forgot where the hell I was going with it. Doesn't matter. And I pulled you out of, you were kind of going down your bullet points. So do you want to go back to that?
Oh yeah, sure. I can go back to that a bit, but yeah, crowdfunding is another good one. We've had many artists crowdfund between $3,000 on a more modest level up to $35,000-$40,000 through Bandzoogle, commission free, and so that makes us happy because crowdfunding platforms take 5, 10, 15% sometimes, and so artists are doing this directly through their websites, and the most important thing with crowdfunding, if you ever consider doing it, is making sure that it's not all about raising money. Even though that's kind of what it's all about, it's not all about raising money, because then it just sounds like a desperate plea for cash. It has to be something that you're bringing your fans on a journey with you to share in the excitement of creating an album and bringing them along that journey of songwriting and studio and mastering and mixing and all that stuff that for you and I, and you're just telling me some amazing stories working in the studio, for you and I, we've been in studios. A lot of us, I'm sure everyone watching this has been in studios. It's exciting, but not, we've all kind of done it. But for your fans who are outside the music industry, like that's
right.
Really cool. It's really fun. So just bringing them on that journey and offering some really interesting, unique rewards to your fans. Again, starting at $10 to get the early download of the album, all the way through, $2,000 to do a private live stream or a house concert or whatever. That band Enter the Haggis, the ones that raised a lot of money doing those Throwback Thursday live streams, they once did a crowdfunding campaign, and they charged, I think it was $2,000 or $2,500. There was only one available to get a matching tattoo with the singer. So you could choose within reason, that have to be agreed, but you could choose the tattoo, and the singer would get the tattoo with you.
Wow.
And it went
That's
to
commitment.
it went to a grandmother in Ireland, and so she got a matching tattoo with the singer of the band.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's really out there, but just anything interesting and unique that you can offer to your fans that goes above and beyond, and it's kind of gets them excited to contribute to the campaign, which is the end goal, is to raise money to pay for the album. But you want to make sure you're not framing it simply as a cash grab, or I really need this money, please help kind of thing. Like it'll likely fall flat in that case. You really got to make sure that the messaging is positive, and that you're because it also helps, even if people don't contribute to your crowdfunding campaign, the people that are following along, like it just builds up hype for the release. Like it's kind of extended pre-release, like you do the crowdfunding, then you do an official pre-order. So anyone that didn't contribute to the crowdfunding, then you do a pre-order for them, then you release it, sell it initially, then you put it up on streaming services for everyone that wants to stream it, and that's fine. But at least you've gone through the full cycle of all of your different types of fans. And Ari Herstand has this pyramid of investment that's in I think his book is right behind me here. But I have a quote on the back of Ari's first edition book, but he became too famous, and the second edition, my quote is not on the back of the book. So I'm a little bit upset about that. Anyways, I think that's the second print. But it's this pyramid of investment, and it's thinking about your fans in this pyramid. And at the very top are like your VIPs. Like those are the ones who are going to give you $2,500 to get a matching tattoo with the singer of the band. And then you have like your fan subscribers, and then people who are going to buy a ticket to a show, buy merch. Then you have people who are just going to buy your music, CD, digital download, and then you have your music streamers. And so all of these fans are great to have, and every artist has fans that fit into most of those categories. But it's important, with all of this, all the talk of revenue streams, that you're offering different options, because you have different levels of fandom, different levels of fans. So some are just going to stream your music. That's cool. Like there's still some revenue generated from that. I know that's a controversial topic, but we've seen our members get added to hugely popular playlists on Spotify, and their careers have just taken off. And that's a whole other conversation. But having your music available for streaming, having it available for digital download, giving your option to pay what you can, offering merch, offering live stream, ticketed live streams, crowdfunding, fan subscriptions. So it's all these different things. But it's a lot to manage, obviously.
Also,
I felt overwhelmed. I can't imagine for an artist.
It's a lot to just get started on,
Yeah.
Oh God, where did I hear that? Oh, from Stephen Pressfield, the guy who was our keynote at the Road Rally this year, who wrote The War of Art. He's got a quote I'm trying to remember correctly right now, but it's something like, the surest sign of being an amateur is just not starting. And that's a lot of people think about stuff. They overthink it. They think about all the obstacles in their way. They really just need to put one foot in front of the other, start out with one thing, and make that happen. Do you have, what would be your one thing if you were an artist that were starting anew and you didn't know what you know, but you know what you know? You know what I mean? That's really confusing. I'm not exactly Barbara Walters as an interviewer. But knowing what you know, if you could talk to your marketing virginal neophyte artist self, what would you tell yourself would be the first thing, and how would you do it?
That's a great question. I'd probably I'd start, if I didn't have a website, I know it's coming from a website guy, but I would start by building my website, start collecting emails, and then using social media. If I was just starting out, I'd have some music. I would put it on my website, pay what you can. So you can pay nothing, or you can pay me $1 or $5, whatever. Have it available for streaming so people can discover it. Fans can enjoy it there. Collect emails on the site, and that's where social media comes into play, especially when you're starting out. Like, where it works the best is when you're looking for fans and you're engaging with your current fans, and just experimenting and trying things out and seeing what's connecting with people. Like, the data that you get from social media can be really interesting through your website as well, but that's more traffic and sales driven. But on social media, you can see, if your posts are resonating with people, and what kind of content works, and get to know your own brand and personality. So we call it the hub and spokes. Like, your hub online is your website. Your website and email list go hand in hand. And the spokes are SoundCloud and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and, TikTok and all those things. But you want to drive people, not with every post, because that'll, get tiring for fans. But every once in a while, just sprinkle in like hey, by the way, you can get an exclusive EP by signing up to my mailing list, and with the link. But the rest of the time, you're just engaging, getting to know your fans. And that's probably how I do it. Like, it's one of these things I'll never forget. We were talking about Florida before, and you're wearing a Miami sweater. I met a band at Full Sail University in Florida, and young guys, like rock band, 4 guys in the band. And they blew me away because they each had a role with social media. So they split up the Instagram, the Twitter, whatever. And every single day, each of them spent between an hour and 2 hours engaging in conversations with their fans. And they built up a following of thousands and thousands, like, from scratch. They weren't a well-known band, but they made it fun for their fans to follow them because they were responding and asking questions back and really engaging with them and putting out kind of fun stuff, but putting in the time. Like, it's one of those things where you have to be consistent with it. You can't just post once on Facebook, leave for 3 weeks, and expect miracles. You got to really put some effort and time into it. So I'd love that they were doing that. Like, they each had a daily task to engage with their fans for at least an hour a day on a specific platform.
That's a rare band that could divvy up the responsibilities, because usually it's like there's always the one guy in the band who is probably the leader of the band and takes on most of the stuff, and the other guys are busy rolling joints or whatever. And and stuff doesn't get done. Inevitably, the band breaks up. But you're right. I've seen this in several bands that have been wildly successful as independents, where they distribute the tasks and
Yeah.
they have weekly meetings, and everybody's held accountable at the meeting. So how many posts did you do? Did you miss any days? What things, give us a report. We do that at Taxi. We call them TMZ meetings, like the TV show TMZ, where the host
Yeah.
goes around and talks to everybody. Sorry,
I love that.
yeah, so that's what we do when we do like an A&R staff meeting. We go person by person by person, and they all report from their aspect of the A&R department. It's
Yeah.
rare that a band can pull that off, but when they do, it almost always results in
It
success.
shows. And just out of curiosity, like after I spoke to the band, I followed them on Twitter and I got a direct message within 5 minutes
Wow.
of one of the band members saying, "Hey, thanks so much for following us." Maybe it was automated. They might have been using a tool. I don't know, but it felt good. And that you could see that on their timeline, they were constantly engaging with their fans. So it's one of those things where if you want to generate revenue, that's a different conversation. If you're just looking to enjoy making music, then you don't have to do these things. You don't have to put pressure on yourself to do these things. But if you are trying to make a living at it, or if it is your living, then doing those things on a consistent basis over the long term really add up. So you're not going to get instant results in the first week, but maybe in the second month or third month, a tweet or an Instagram post, a certain hashtag you put with it, all of a sudden attracted attention and was getting shared. Yet you never know. I mean, there's one of my favorite singer-songwriters in Canada years ago. He had a bit of a following, and he was just tweeting just dumb album titles with movie titles, like mashing them together, and he created some goofy hashtag. He was waiting to go to sound check, and his followers started playing the game, and it started trending on Twitter in
Wow.
North America because everyone was like, "Oh, this is hilarious, let's all do this." And he started it, and he got thousands and thousands of followers from it. But it's just one of these like unplanned creative artist things where you're like, I'm bored before sound check, let me just tweet some goofy things, and he slapped a hashtag on it. And not everyone can do that, but it's one of those things where you don't know unless you're consistently putting effort into creating things and trying out different things on social media. And so that would be my advice, going back to your original and great question, is start with the basics. Make sure you own your website, you have a mailing list, and then use social media to experiment, engage with your fans on a consistent, regular basis over the long term. And then, we didn't even talk about the music aspect of having great music. Doesn't hurt, obviously. When you have great music or a great live show or a great live clip or a great video or a funny video or something, fans will share that, and that exponentially helps your marketing efforts, right?
You guys have blogs about this stuff on your site, and I want people to know that you should go to bandzoogle.com. Even if you already have your own website and you have it using, another platform or something, go to Bandzoogle for the deep, deep well of information that's there.
Yeah. It's getting back to your keynote speaker from the last rally. I no longer do any blogging at Bandzoogle. I kind of oversee it, but our communications manager, Melanie Keeley, has taken over, and she's amazing. And she's our principal blog writer and curates the content now. And, it's better than it's ever been. And when I first started at Bandzoogle 10 years ago, all I did was I was part-time blogging. And then I became full-time blogging, and that was my main focus. And I'll never forget, it got to the point where you're and it's same for writers, same for musicians and composers. I started to get this block of every blog post had to be like the best ever. And then I'd get stuck. I'd get I'd get scared almost. And I'll never forget, I heard of The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and I read it, and it was such almost like a working class, blue collar, this is your job. You have to do it every day. Just write the damn thing. Just do it consistently. And that book, for any artist or creative person that has not read that book, Oh my God. Highly recommend it. It's a real kick in the ass when you're feeling stuck and not productive, because it'll inspire you to just get it done. Just it's one of those things you just got to get it done.
I am such a fanboy of Pressfield's. I read the book many years ago, and I tried to get him for the road rally, I think 3 or 4 years ago when we were doing a physical road rally, and then in the end he didn't want to do it. I think he just didn't want to be in a ballroom with 1,000 people or something. But he felt very comfortable doing it live online. He and I really hit it off. At least I think we have. Hopefully he feels the same way. But we now exchange emails about every 10 or 12 days, and we've got a tentative golf game set up. We both love a particular golf course here in LA. So when COVID has finally become a memory, we will go play around the golf together. But even his emails, and our emails are short. It's just, I don't want to make him sit down and read a novel from me, but I'll send him like a 2-sentence email. And the 2 sentences he sends back, I just go, this guy was put on God's green earth to do what he does, because he's one of those people whose insight is blue collar. It's a great way to describe it. He's so deep, but he's not an elitist snob. He's just one of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if
Absolutely.
you guys, anybody who hasn't read The War of Art by Stephen with the V Pressfield, you are just hurting yourself. You can bang it out on a Saturday.
Oh yes, it's a quick read, but it's such an impactful read. You know? I've read it. I've read it at least twice. Like, it's one of those things. It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Whenever it's kind of stuck in a rut.
I've read some of his novels now, or his historical stuff. He's got a book called The Lion's Gate about when Israel recaptured the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall. And he does it in first-person narrative in the voice of the soldiers who lived it. And I'm reading the book now that annotates his trip to Israel to interview these guys now that they're 80 years old, and that's how he got the information for the book. Oh my gosh, you can't put down what the guy writes. And it points to one thing, which is the email I haven't sent to him yet, which is craft. And this goes back to your statement a couple minutes ago about, and yeah, you got to have good music. You can know all the marketing tricks in the world, but if your music isn't great, well, he proves that with his craft. The guy can write a narrative, it's like semi-fictional but historical book, and I love to highlight books, and I'm finding myself just, rather than highlighting, sentence by where am I? Sentence by sentence, I just go and highlight the whole page now in the margin. And it's his craft that makes me love it so much. So your point about the music is incredibly well taken. People have forgotten that if you don't write hooks, you can, market it all you want. People are going to go, well, I came, I tried, not that good, bye-bye.
Yeah, exactly. So the one, before we get to questions, the last revenue stream I want to talk about is extremely relevant, and I wanted to talk to you specifically about it, and Taxi members, because for Bandzoogle members, it's still something that's not relatively new, but that especially during the pandemic, a lot more of our members are trying to learn about. And I've been telling them, check out Taxi, which is because you don't need to do this. It doesn't matter if there's live shows or not, but licensing your music is something that you can do year round. So it's still something that a lot of artists don't understand about. We have a couple of our members that have had some success, and I wanted to ask you, like, what are you seeing? Like, you're Mr. Taxi, like, you're seeing all these opportunities, and artists, getting placements. And I'm just curious, like, what your experience and the experience of your team has been this past year with licensing music.
I am so glad you asked that. I'm thrilled that you asked that. I got to tell you, right before the lockdown happened, we all knew it was coming, and it was just a matter of days until they announced it. And my head was spinning, and I wasn't sleeping well at night because I thought, oh my God, at first I thought it'd be 2 or 3 weeks, and I thought, that's going to be tough on a lot of people. Even if they lose 3 weeks of income, that's hardship for a lot of people. And then it happened, and I thought, well, It's the beginning of the end. The staff and I went remote. The staff, I am so incredibly grateful for my staff for doing such a great job of working remote. As a matter of fact, I think we would all agree, they would all agree with me, that in some regards, we're more productive than we've ever been. There's a little more accountability. There's a little more pride of workmanship that we report to each other. It's like, here I am, isolated in my house, but guess what I did today? I accomplished a new thing.
Yep.
On the industry side, we thought that things would just fall apart because productions got shut down. Not shooting any shows, no music is needed. Well, we have seen the single biggest influx of new requests for music in the company's 29-year history. And if I couldn't explain it at first, I'm not certain I can explain it now. And I think we're on, as soon as this is over, there's going to be a peak of new requests that is just going to be insane because of all the shows going into production. So it's been really, really good. Our members are getting more deals than ever. The libraries, production music libraries that were the weaker ones, run by people who weren't taking it all that seriously, who weren't good business people, they didn't know how to survive the pandemic, and they seem to have fallen by the wayside. The ones that did know how to run a good business seem to be thriving, although I do get reports where they'll hit pockets of like a dead zone where they're getting very, very few requests coming in, and then all of a sudden they just can't keep up with the requests. So overall, I'm happy to report that music licensing has been really healthy, and it has also been really good for taxi members specifically in this regard, which is when the libraries do have those pockets of downtime, rather than scrambling all the time to sell music, they're now going to look at their catalog and going, oh, that orchestral stuff, it sounds a little long in the tooth, frankly. You know, a lot of it was done 5-10 years ago. Samples weren't that good. People weren't that good with their home studios. I need to freshen up that genre in my catalog. We picked up on that pretty quickly and started now reaching out to them going, hey, you know, is there anything you need to freshen up? There are some library owners that I'm friends with them like I am with you. I could call you and say, hey, Dave, there's something on the Bandzoogle website that maybe you guys are too close to it, you haven't noticed, and you would go, oh, thanks for telling me. I would do the same if the shoe were on the other foot. Well, the library owners that I know super well, I've called them and said, dude, I was on your site last night. I was listening to dramedy, and it sounds like everybody else's dramedy music. You need some fresh blood. Can we run some dramedy listings, and can I word it saying that you're looking for stuff that's left of center? That's a great idea. Would you please? So all these little things have kind of filled in the gaps to what has been Taxi's best year ever. From the member perspective, members getting deals. And in closing on that thought, even though we didn't have a road rally in person this year, and the road rally has become a big thing for building relationships over a beer in the lobby bar. I would say something like 30 or 40%, if I just had to wing it and guess, 30 to 40% of all the music signed is a result of people meeting people, whether it's a collaborator who they partner with and ride, and I mean this in the kindest way, ride their coattails into a catalog, or they meet the library owner at the road rally and, you know, just a simple conversation starter like, I saw you on that panel. That was great. How did you get started in the industry? Because everybody loves to talk about him or herself. And before you know it, rather than you walking up, I'm looking for a CD, I can't find one, but rather than walking up and shoving music in somebody's face at the bar, asking them, how did you get started? Or can you elaborate on that point for me? Sooner or later, they're going to turn to you and go, so what do you do? Well, I make really good dramedy tracks. Oh man, I could use some of those. So all these things came together in 2020 for what turned out to be a remarkable year. Not so much for Taxi as a company, although it was, but for our members. I've never seen more deals, more placements, people who are the deals are happening faster, which I shouldn't talk about publicly because it raises expectations to an unrealistic level. I've seen a lot more people that in their first 90 days of Taxi have gotten deals. Why that's happening, I don't know, but I think it's attributable to people are just making better music and more people understand the craft of building instrumental cues for reality shows and how that's different from writing songs about your girlfriend on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah. Wow. First of all, that's amazing to hear. I'm happy to hear that. And I think, God, you hit on such a great point that I hadn't even thought of, which is when all these productions open up, like fully open up. I mean, the
It's going
demand
to
for
be, yeah, crazy.
incredible. That's amazing. I mean, so that's incredible to hear. That makes me feel good about things.
I'm so glad you asked that question.
No, I was so curious when we booked this. I was like, I cannot wait to talk to Michael about how the licensing world is because I have no idea. I really don't. It's part of it's part of the industry that I'll always defer to people like yourself. Like I don't get it, I don't understand it. I never have, probably never will. But it fascinates me, and I know musicians and composers are having a lot of success and making their careers with it. And it's heartening to hear that. It's been a good year, and you're absolutely right. I think once all these productions open up, all of a sudden there's going to be that flood of demand for music to go with all these productions that are delayed, but also the new ones that are going to start up. It's phenomenal.
If I can brag about my team a little bit here, I remember about 10 days to 2 weeks before we went out on lockdown, I said, this thing is becoming real, and it's not going to be unlike the experience we had after 9/11 at Taxi. Our personal experience was that all of a sudden we got flooded with requests for music that would be appropriate for like movies of the week type stuff about 9/11. And I said, the industry is going to need a bunch of music about making it through tough times, how family really matters, tragedy of losing somebody, the joy of coming out the other end of the tunnel. And so we literally sent an email to about 25 to 35 production music libraries that we have very good ongoing relationships with that said, you're going to need this. You probably haven't thought about it because you guys are always scrambling to get, orders filled today, but you're going to need this. And they went, oh yeah, that's great. And a bunch of them ran listings, and we got some nice emails from people saying, man, that was so prescient of you guys to think of that. It was only because we saw it happen once before and I didn't forget the lesson. But so, yes, not only will there be a lot of productions, but the focus will, for many of them, obviously not all of them, but I think even a sitcom is going to have an episode that's going to be based around, we can go out to dinner tonight, or we can go to a movie theater. And so songs about going out and having fun are going to be very appropriate. So that's my way of telling the music community, think forward. Think about what might be on the horizon. It's great to sit down and write from the heart, wait for the muse to show up and tell you what to write, but maybe the muse could tell you to write songs that aren't, hey, I'm so glad we can go to a movie theater tonight, but a song about it's great to be out in the world. Something general, Yeah. Anyway, thank you for asking that. You're giving me a soapbox. All right, you ready for some Q&A?
Sure.
All right, guys, if you've got a question, type the word question in all caps. There's one right there from Lane, Bell, and Shrek. I'm finding it difficult to raise fans to my own site. How will Bandzoogle be different, or do we have to pay Facebook, social media sites for advertising space to get fans?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's it's the $1 million question. How do you get fans? How do you build up a fan base? So Bandzoogle is a platform that strictly powers your website. We don't get involved in the promotion side of things, and we don't make any claims or promises to, provide a fan base for any of our members. We're simply there to power your website, make sure it looks professional, and you can do all your direct-to-fan e-commerce, drive your fans there to sell music, collect emails, and all that. But there are services out there that claim to be able to build your fan base for you and find your fans. I tend to be very skeptical of those types of services. It's really more of getting back to what we talked about earlier, Michael, is just that grind of, every day, just being on social media, engaging with even if you have, a few dozen fans, just engaging with them, putting out new content. And as the content gets better and you're experimenting and see what works, you're going to build up that fan base. But it's a slow process, and it can be, I would imagine, slower than most people would like, and frustrating at times. But no, Bandzoogle doesn't, and we would never promise to help you find fans or something like that. We can make your website will be found by Google. Like, we do things for SEO and for search to make sure that your websites are optimized so that, when someone types in your artist name in a Google search, they're going to find your website. But that's the extent of it. We don't get involved in promoting individual artists. Every fan base is different. Every artist has different fan bases. So, we're a relatively small company in the space, but we have over 55,000 artists. So, I mean, you'd need 55,000 artist marketers to really get to know each individual artist. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but it can be, kind of a grind to build up your fan base. And there's, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, show.co has a great suite of tools. CD Baby's show.co has a great bunch of tools that you can use to target fans and target music fans. So those would be places to look to augment what you're doing on a daily basis for free, which is, hopefully engaging with your fans and putting out new content.
Nancy Kalel is asking, what's the best current book recommended for all the things we're talking about? And there are many of them, and I think you and I are both readers. I tend to read an hour a day, almost all business-related books, whether it's marketing or management. My personal favorite person out there, and I don't even know if her book is still out, it probably is, Ariel Hyatt is probably the best known, the most well-informed, and that's AIREL, 1L, Hyatt, like Hyatt Hotels, HYATT. She's great at social media, and she was on top of it way before everybody else, but she's also great about doing it specifically for musicians. Do you have any favorites?
I do, a couple. Ariel's definitely one of them. Been friends with Ariel now for close to 20 years. So she's been around a long time. She knows her stuff. Definitely recommend it. She does. Two I'll name. One I plugged before was Ari Herstand. He's got the second edition of his book, How to Make It in the New Music Business. You can find it on Amazon. It's a bestseller, has been for several years now. And Bree Noble, who I believe did a class at Taxi the last time we were there. And she has a book called The Musician's Profit Path, 5-stage blueprint to create massive growth and a fan base for your career. So that's available on Amazon as well. So Bree Noble, BREENOBLE, The Musician's Profit Path. So those would be the two that I would definitely recommend.
I think they named a prize after Bree. No, I actually know her as well. I think she interviewed me about a couple of years ago. Very, very, very nice lady, and definitely an advocate for all musicians. All right, here's another question. What was the name of that printing site that you referenced earlier?
Oh, it's called Printful, printful.com.
And I think it's only got one L on the end, I think.
Exactly. So if you're not using Bandzoogle, you can absolutely still use Printful. It's a great service, print-on-demand service. And they have facilities worldwide, so it's great if you have fans in different areas of the world. Like, they have print facilities globally. But yeah, it's 1L, Printful with 1L. But now we have an integration where it pulls in, you create your merch on Printful, and then you pull it in through our API connection, and it'll put your Printful items alongside your CDs, your vinyl, your digital music. And so your fans could shop for all these different things. And the CDs, let's say you're fulfilling those, you'll send them the CD, but then they'll get the t-shirt printed by Printful, and that'll ship to you directly from them. So it's all seamlessly integrated into your website store through that integration. So we're super excited. It's just launched, and we're launching a big charity initiative starting tomorrow, actually, for our 17th birthday at Bandzoogle. We're launching every year. We used to have a meetup, not this past year, obviously, but we're fully remote. So we're talking about remote work at Taxi. Bandzoogle's been remote now for 17 years, and so every year we fly the staff and their family into one location for a week, and we hang out because we don't get to see each other very much, and get to meet them and watch all the kids grow up. It's fun, and we always create this special anniversary merch every time. It could be a T-shirt, could be a bathrobe, it could be a mug, it could and our members always ask us, "Hey, where can I get one of those?" And we're like, "Staff only, sorry." So we're launching with the Printful integration a store tomorrow that's going to have our 17th anniversary charity merch. We hired a really great illustrator to do a custom design, and we're giving all the profits to the Unison Benevolent Fund up here in Canada, which gives money to the music community for mental health support. And it's obviously never been more needed than this past year.
I was going to say, if there was ever a year.
Yeah, so they're the biggest music charity in Canada, so we're working with them, and Bandzoogle is going to match $5,000 of donations as well on top of that. Sweet. So, but anyways, so it's a little bit of a side with Printful, but that's happening tomorrow. So we're excited about that. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. More questions?
No, that's okay. I mean, that's awesome that you guys are doing that, and I've got a tangent that I'll keep under a minute here about the anniversary shirt. Many years ago, I was the studio manager in New York of a studio called Howard Schwartz Recording, better known as HSR. It was the preeminent audio post facility, probably anywhere in the United States, probably the world. I mean, it was as good as it got for audio post. Very large facility. And so for the 10th anniversary, we made shirts that only our top clients and the staff could get. We threw a party out in the Hamptons, and only top clients and the staff got to go. And about 6 months later, I came to LA. I flew out here from New York to look and see. I wanted to survey the landscape, to look at the competitors out here and think about opening up a Howie Schwartz West Coast. Well, I stayed at the hotel, the Chateau Marmont, where John Belushi famously passed away. And apparently, the night that I landed, let's say I flew in on a Thursday night, the police found a dead body somewhere in Los Angeles wearing one of these sweatshirts. And the deceased person had black hair, was about 5'9.5", which I am on a good day. And they saw the shirt had the phone number of the studio, the logo and the phone number. So the next morning they called Howie Schwartz Recording. They get the receptionist on the phone. Do you guys have anybody currently in Los Angeles that would be wearing a sweatshirt with the 10th anniversary logo on it? Yes, we do. It's our manager, Michael Lasco. Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we think we found him dead, face down in somebody's front yard. And the staff went hysterical. They all thought I was dead. Until Howie himself got on the phone and he goes, "Nah, Lasco's fatter than that," or something. Something gave it away that it wasn't me. And the next thing I know, I had LAPD detectives knocking on my door. It turned out it was a homeless gentleman. We've never figured out how he got the shirt, other than possibly one of our clients had gotten it and gave it to Goodwill or something, and this homeless guy got it, but it wasn't me. Anyway, so those anniversary shirts sometimes are good for a murder mystery.
Jesus. Crazy.
Yeah, I love the stories I've had in my lifetime. Okay, one more question. We've got time for many more questions. Is a USB stick good to give away as a freebie or sell? Where do they rank in the order of desirable items?
Depends what you put on it, I think. Like, no, it's true. Like, I've seen artists, like, they have their newest album on it and it's branded, and that's cool. And I've gotten those as instead of CDs at Taxi. Artists are giving USB keys, which is fine. I've seen other artists where they have their full discography. There's videos. There's high res photos. They're like which is cool too. I think they're pretty cheap to produce now. I think it's one of those things where it's a good question. It's making me think here. So, it strikes me as something that would be relatively inexpensive to ship. And if you're really trying to build your mailing list, that could be something that you could give away in exchange for emails, depending on your cost per USB, of course. But you could try selling them. You could try selling them for a minimum price and pay what you want. I've seen them more or less as a giveaway item, though, at industry conferences where instead of giving a CD and I get handed, or people have tried handing me CDs in the last few years, and I literally no longer own a device that plays a CD.
Yeah,
unfortunately, all the latest Apple products don't have disk drives. So USB keys, well, they don't even have a USB port anymore. That's another story. But but I would probably, it depends what your goal is with them. If they're for fans, you could try selling them. But I see mostly artists using them for industry purposes, where they have the EPK loaded onto it, some music. It's branded, sort of kind of like a business card, like a more powerful business card. But I don't know if that answers your questions. But I think you can try selling any kind of merch, and the numbers will tell you if it's a good idea or not. Like if no one's buying it, you can move on to something else. But again, you can maybe set the price at whatever your cost is and make it pay what you want. And so the minimum is at least you're not losing money, but maybe fans will chip in an extra few bucks just to support you.
I want to go back to one. I've got to scroll up in my chat room to find this one. This one's from Nancy Kalel. Aside from Bandzoogle collecting the emails, what's the best system to keeping track of all the emails? Seriously, mine are still attached to numerous clipboards. Old school.
Yeah. So I used to intern for artists many years ago and touring artists, and I would have to take those clipboards and I'd have to try to read the writing and enter it into a Excel spreadsheet. And so that's the first step, unfortunately. And you could probably hire someone, through one of these freelancing websites for cheap to try to transcribe that for you. But anyways, when an email is collected through Bandzoogle, similar to when it's collected through like a MailChimp sign up form, it goes in a database and you can download it as a CSV file. You can sort it. You can, you can use that data and search that data that way electronically. Once it's automatically entered into that database for you, and you can then do some segmenting and searching within it from there.
Man, you guys are really client friendly and client centric in the fact that you don't make any commissions on anything people sell through the sites that they build using your tools, and the fact that you could be a musician that's built a site, collected 1,000 emails, let's say, and then you decide, you know what? I'm not going to stick with Bandzoogle, or I'm not going to have a website, whatever. They leave as a customer. They can download the CSV, and they could go to Constant Contact and just re-upload that and start an email campaign using any of the email providers. And by the way, I'm pretty well versed. I'm saying this to the audience, not you, Dave, but almost any of the brand name email providers are pretty darn good. And for the most part, you can get a free level of service from them. Start out that way, because you don't need to pay for anything they do until you get over like 500 or 1,000 people on your list. And at that point, you're going to be generating enough money that you can pay them for what they do. So whether it's Constant Contact, AWeber, there's just a million of them out there. Any of them that you've seen over and over. There's one called Emma.
Nashville. I once did an event in their office space randomly in Nashville. Yeah.
The thing about emails is you have to learn how to write great subject lines. And a question I want to ask you that I ask you every time we talk in public is, people use crazy fonts on websites. They think they're getting all artistic, and nobody could read that stuff. Do you have a preferred font and a preferred font size for the whatever the focal point of your home page is. My yeah, go ahead.
Right. I'm looking. Our lead designer actually wrote a blog post this past year on how to choose fonts for your website. So I just looking it up. So it's important to keep it simple. So you're going to have one font for all of the body text. Don't use different fonts for different, like just keep it simple. You can have a different font for your artist name or logo or whatever. And just make sure it's legible. Like it's about font selection, but also the contrast of the text to the background of your website. So if you have, black background on your website, don't have gray text on your web. And we see it all the time.
All the time. I've seen professional designners use like a 50% gray saturation on a white background. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. So it's really partially a font selection. And in our system, we have preloaded fonts, and you'll do okay using those. You can actually upload your own custom fonts if you want. But yeah, it's a font selection thing, keeping it simple, making sure it's legible, like nothing too fancy or curvy, like cursive, like for your body text. Like you want to make it very legible, very quickly, very easy to read. So it's keeping the font choice simple for the copy, the main body text, and making sure the contrast, or even you see sometimes, and you can do this through Bandzoogle, different sections of the website have background images, but then you scroll and you can't read the text over the background image. So it's just making sure that everything is very easily readable. Like I was on Instagram earlier today, and there were these teaching slides that an organization had put up, and it was extremely cursive. There was yellow on like light blue. I couldn't read the dense text on these 5 slides, so I gave up. I was like, I can't, just make it readable.
There's a great book that I read probably 20 years ago, and it was one of my life-changing books from a business owner's perspective. I can't remember the title, but I can tell you that it was written by a guy named Colin Wheeldon, Weildon, or Whieldon, Colin Wheeldon, and it's called like Graphics and Fonts or something like that. And it's a fairly old school book, but what they did was they studied which font in which size against which color font, this size on this background, and it turns out that a 12-point Times or Times New Roman is the most readable font in print on paper. The book was written, I believe, before websites were a thing, or certainly like they are now. But if all else fails, go with Helvetica or something very simple like Helvetica for your body copy on the internet. And you can use a different font for your headline. So maybe go with Times New Roman, that big for your headline on your website. And then like the equivalent of a 12-point Helvetica, or I'm trying to think what the other ones are. But yeah, Helvetica will get you in the ballpark.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a blog post. If you Google how to choose fonts for your band website.
If you want, you can email that link right now to liz@taxi.com, and she'll put it in the chat. So it'll be up there every time people watch this.
Awesome. Liz@taxi.com.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. I'll do that right now. Yeah, it's a great resource, and he goes into details of, contrast and where you can find different fonts and how to pair them depending on genre. And he's the one who chooses the fonts for Bandzoogle to have in our system. So we were happy that he wrote that for us. So liz@taxi.com, website fonts. There you go. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, here's a question from Glenn Letts. By the way, Glenn, thank you for sending me that card celebrating our 29th anniversary. Very, very sweet of you. I saw it when I went to the office today. Question, he has a wedding music website through iPower Web. If I got a Bandzoogle site, would I be able to transfer the wedding content to Bandzoogle website and add content selling guitar lessons as well? So could you just transfer. When he says transferring content, that's one thing to transfer over a block of text or an image. I think he's asking, can I just take the pages that are already built and bring them over?
Yeah, unfortunately not. So you'd be going from one platform to another, and it would be initially depending on how much content you have, but you can download all that from your current website or copy paste the text into, or you can have it actually. You can Bendzoogle's free to try. I should mention that, and with Taxi you get 3 months free and a discount, and so you can really take your time and just have your Bandzoogle website open, which is not that's going to be a work in progress, and just copy over the content, copy the text, build up the pages, download the images and upload them. We have different integrations that can help. We have an integration with Dropbox. So if you put everything in Dropbox, you can just upload it all that way. But no, unfortunately, there's not a way to directly import that stuff. It's going to be somewhat manual, but we do have some integrations that'll help speed up that process. And then to answer your second question is absolutely, we have a ton of music teachers using Bandzoogle that sell lessons, and they pay for the lessons through the website because it's commission free. So we have teachers who are selling videos, video files, video lessons, doing the subscriptions model where it's gated and your students are subscribers and you do different levels. So some of them get individual teaching, some of them get a group class, some of them get to choose which songs to learn, that kind of thing. So there's different ways to use your website for teaching lessons, but absolutely we have the capability to do all of that.
Great. And here's a question from Edmund Red, who's a Bandzoogle user, says he's having major SEO issues with Bandzoogle. Is there a way to go under the hood and fix that? SEO, not an easy task, my friend. Dave, take it away.
Yeah, you can contact our support team. I mean, there are a bunch of things that you can do. It depends what you're trying to accomplish specifically with SEO. But without knowing exactly, you can customize things to a certain degree. With Bandzoogle, you can add custom titles and tags and page descriptions. We have different tools to make sure your site is registered and updated with Google. But it all depends what you're trying to accomplish with SEO. And we actually have on our blog, on the sidebar, there's a guide written by our head of growth marketing, which is a guide to SEO for musicians that really it's a real deep dive into SEO for musicians and the things that you can do with Bandzoogle specifically. So SEO is can be a bit of a complex topic. I'm not the best person to answer SEO questions, but I know there's definitely some customizations you can make, and you can contact the support team anytime and they can take a look at that for you and make some recommendations.
I'm a civilian SEO expert. I've read 1 million books. We have an SEO guy that gets paid every month to do stuff. We have some ridiculous number of pages on our website, like 16 or 18,000 pages. And so SEO is an ongoing thing. I could tell you the simplest thing that people mess up is bad metadata, bad title tags. And if you can get your title tags to match the headlines and make sure you tag your pictures, all those basic steps, those are foundational. They absolutely will help. I missed a question earlier from Marion Laird, which is there any limit to the number of items your clients can sell through Bandzoogle? My regular website has a limit of 10 items or so without an expensive upgrade. So does Bandzoogle, could I be a music teacher and sell CDs and merch and blah, blah, blah? Is there a cap on the number of items?
There's only a cap on the digital tracks. That's only on the light plan. But I don't believe there's any limitations on the store on merch items that I know of. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think it's unlimited store items and merch items. And just getting back to Edmund Red for a second, I don't know what you're trying to accomplish, and please do contact our support team. But I Googled your name, and your Bandzoogle website was my first result, and you have the Google thing along the side that has your YouTube link, your genre, songs, your different profiles. It has that special thing on the side. I forget the technical term for it, but so I'm not sure if you're trying to do something else with different keywords, which would be a different thing. But definitely, if someone Googles your name, at least I haven't Googled your name anytime lately, that's for sure. So it wasn't stored or anything like that. And you're first, and you've got your all your info there. That's crawled from your website that's displaying on the search. So that's at least a good starting point. But if you're trying to do something else with different keywords and trying to show up for like specific type of music and keywords.
Music licensing composer. You're one of 2.1 million people trying to get on that front page. That's a tough job.
Yeah, so it depends what you're trying to accomplish, and there's certain things that could definitely help, and our support team can hopefully help you go in the right direction anyways. But it can be, depending on what you're trying to do, it can be extremely, like you just said, Michael, extremely competitive for certain keywords.
Well, I got to tell you, not only are you a good friend, and I always like, well, Dave and I go to dinner, seriously, like a 3 hour dinner for us always feels like not enough. I get in the car to go home. And I'm sure I've said this, that if you and I lived in the same town, we'd be hanging out a lot. I just,
Absolutely. Yeah, I miss you, man. I hope we get to see each other this year.
Yeah.
It's nice to have those dinners once a year and catch up and have nice long conversations that are music industry related, but also just life. But I'm glad we were able to do this. I really appreciate the invite. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. I hope I answered your questions, and if not, please contact our support team if you have any further questions. But I really enjoyed hanging out for an hour and a half and chatting, Michael.
I loved having you on the show. I will have people in the chat are saying, get him back before the road rally. So I will. I'll make a point of that. I am absolutely serious about having you moderate that panel at the road rally, whether it's physical or virtual. Tony Van Veen and one other Dan, I can't remember Dan's last name, are the only people I've ever let moderate other panels. So you're in very good company.
Honored.
I love the concept of getting some people who've done it, your most successful examples, and say, spill your guts, kids. Tell the rest of the room how you did it. With that, I want to say, recommend, look, Bandzoogle does write us a check to sponsor the Road Rally. That's not why, I think you can see that's not why I invited Dave to be on the show. And that's not why I recommend Bandzoogle. I recommend Bandzoogle because our members use them. They love them. I have never, ever heard one bad thing about Bandzoogle. I've only heard glowing stuff about how easy it was to build the site. They're so comprehensive in all the tools they give you. The fact that you guys let people run all this merch and all this stuff for sale through you, you're like the only company I can think of that doesn't take 10 or 15% off the top of that. So yay. With that, thank you, Dave. Just see you when I see you, buddy. Always great to have you here. You guys, I will see you tomorrow for Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour right here, same channel, 4 o'clock. If you haven't given us a like, please do. Please remember to hit that red record button if you're new to the show. And red, not record. I played with Logic all weekend. It's so funny. Hit the red subscribe button if you're not a subscriber yet. And we'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone.
Great to see you. Bye-bye.